What's up everybody? This is Evan, the Maine motorcycle addict, and today we're going to talk about the 10 things that I think you need to know about the brand new Harley Davidson Sportster S. The Sportster S is a brand new bike from Harley. It's a bit of a departure from their more traditional design philosophy, engine design, all those things. It's a pretty all new bike, and these are the 10 things that I think you need to know. Of course, they're not the only things that you need to know about this bike. There's tons of new features on this bike, but these are the 10 that I think are the most important, especially if you're thinking about buying this bike and want to get to know a little bit more about it. So let's jump into the video. Alright, so the first thing that you need to know about the new Sportster S is the engine is a liquid-cooled 60-degree V-twin that redlines at 9,500 RPM. So that right there should kind of give you an idea of what Harley was looking for when they built this motor. It's high revving, high performance, liquid cooled to keep the temperatures under control when it's spinning all those RPMs. Obviously it's much more high revving than their traditional engines. Usually they go with a push rod motor, air cooled, 45-degree V-twin. This is a much more high revving, performance oriented motor than traditional Harleys are known for. The second thing that you need to know about this engine is that they put variable valve timing in it. So the engine can actually control the timing of the valves based on the RPM of the engine. At higher RPMs, they can make the valves open a little bit earlier so that they have more time to close. This way they can really control the torque and power delivery of the engine a lot better than they can with a traditional camshaft. It gives the engine a lot more opportunity to create the power profiles that they're looking for, especially based on things like outside temperature, the elevation that you're riding at, throttle position versus RPM, all those types of things. The computer just has a lot more control over the power delivery. If you're familiar at all with the new Pan America Adventure Touring bike that Harley came out with, the Sportster S motor shares a lot of similarities with the Pan America motor. It does have basically the same design on the bottom end, but there are also a few significant differences. The Sportster S motor has its own head design, has a different combustion chamber, and it also has different valves. The reason they did this is they felt like the rider on the Sportster is going to want to get up to speed very quickly. You're going to be going from one corner to the next on those twisty back roads or tearing up a canyon. So they wanted to give the motor a bit more low-end performance, whereas the Pan America, you're going to be doing a lot more touring, long-distance cruising with it. So they wanted to give that one just a little bit more highway motor, if you will. So they kind of designed the Sportster S motor with torque in mind. They actually do call it the Revolution Max 1250T to emphasize the fact that they were going for torque when they designed this motor. One thing you'll see floating around the internet that's not true is that this motor is a detuned Pan America motor, because it does have a lower peak horsepower number, but it's not detuned, it's just retuned for this bike. It does have a lower peak horsepower, but they got the power more in the RPM range that they wanted it in for this bike. It's more concerned about torque than peak horsepower numbers. So if you see anybody talking about this motor being detuned, that's not true. It is a powerful motor. It's simply retuned for the needs of the Sportster S. Before we move any further through this video, I want to mention the sponsor for this video, and that is Big Moose Harley Davidson in Portland, Maine. If you have any questions, they're the people you want to go to, and you should really check out their website. They've got everything that you could possibly want. If you check out their website, go down to their inventory, click on pre-owned here, see what they got. I'm not going to put in any filters so you can see everything. Look at that, 14 pages of pre-owned bikes. If you thought that dealers were out of stock because of the pandemic, then you have not been looking at Big Moose Harley Davidson. They have plenty of inventory. Let's see what they got for new inventory. 6 pages of new inventory. If you need any parts, you need service, or hey, the holidays are coming up soon, maybe you need to get a gift for somebody that likes Harley Davidson in your life, go on down there, check out what they got for apparel. They've got kids' clothes, they've got men's, women's clothing, they got riding jackets, boots, anything you could ever want. Just go down to Big Moose Harley Davidson and check it out. I guarantee you they'll hook you up. The fourth thing that you need to know is that the Sportster S uses the engine and transmission as a stressed unit of the frame. So it's got a 3-piece frame that bolts on to the engine, and uses the engine to carry a lot of the load through the frame components. The reason they did this was primarily for weight savings. It cut out a lot of steel from the traditional tubular steel frame, and even though this is a liquid cooled bike and it does have 50 cc's bigger engine than the previous Sportster, it still comes in running order at 62 pounds lighter than the previous Sportster 1200. So that's a big deal from a performance standpoint, and that's why they went with the engine and transmission as a stressed unit. Again, this is a pretty big departure from what Harley's traditionally been doing, but it's really a step in the right direction as far as I'm concerned from a performance standpoint. The fifth thing that you need to know about this bike is that they used a roller finger follower design for the valve actuation. So the cam actually pushes on a little finger, and that pushes the valve down. The reason they did that, and the benefit to it, is that the cam lobe on the camshaft can be a lot shorter, and then having that leverage of the finger follower allows the valve to be pushed further in a lot shorter time span. So that's one of the reasons that they went with that. They also, on the non-valve side of that little finger follower, they used hydraulic valve adjusters, and that means that there is no valve lash adjustment required. It's constantly adjusting itself to get to the proper valve lash based on hydraulic pressure. So that's a maintenance-free item now. The sixth thing that you need to know about the new Harley Davidson Sportster S is the suspension. The suspension is a massive step up from Harley. Both the forks and the shock have fully adjustable compression and rebound damping, and they both have adjustable spring preload. The shock also has a linkage design on the swing arm, which gives it a bit more adjustability, and it gives it more travel with a shorter shock throw. So that's a big step up from a performance standpoint. You can really dial in the suspension to whatever type of riding and whatever type of road conditions you're going to be using the bike on. The seventh thing that you need to know about the Sportster S is the gauge. It is a 4.3 inch color TFT display, and it does everything. Gives you all your gauges, has an infotainment center, Bluetooth connectivity, GPS, ride modes, all kinds of different stuff right on that center gauge, right on the handlebars. Super high tech, all kinds of options and features on it that honestly I don't have time to get into in this video because there's just too many of them. But it's a really good system. Another big step up in technology from Harley, and it's really good to see them put that on this bike. The eighth thing that you need to know about the Harley Davidson Sportster S is ride modes. We've been talking about all this technology and all these different features that it's got in the engine, into the suspension, into the display, and all that stuff allows them to create all kinds of different ride modes. You can actually customize your own ride modes. You can customize how aggressive you want the ABS to be, the traction control, all that type of stuff. It even has a sophisticated IMU on the bike that senses lean angle in the pitch of the bike, so that allows it to have wheelie control, and it'll actually use the ABS on the front brake to release a little bit of brake pressure if it feels the rear tire coming off the ground. It also controls the ABS and the traction control a little bit differently as the bike is leaned over. So it senses the bike leaning over, it knows you're pushing the tires pretty hard and you have a fairly small contact patch. So it's going to make the ABS and the traction control kick on a little bit sooner and give you a little bit more protection. Thing number 9 that we're going to talk about is the styling. Now, styling can be a little bit controversial. Obviously, it's a personal opinion type thing. Some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it, but I'll just give you some broad strokes. They did a really good job with the style, in my opinion, paying homage to the classic Sportster look, especially with the way they styled the gas tank, and also the exhaust kind of reminiscent of the old flat track bikes from back in the day. So they kind of brought that classic look, but it's also futuristic and modern looking at the same time, which I think is really cool. I personally like the style of it. I think it looks pretty sweet. It almost has like a post-apocalyptic look to it, in my opinion. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Book of Eli, but I feel like this bike would be perfect in The Book of Eli. If they ever make a sequel to that movie, this bike needs to be in it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of the style of the new Sportster S. Like I said, some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. I personally like it. I think it's pretty cool looking. Let me know what you think in the comments. And finally, thing number 10 that you need to know about the Sportster is the color options. It might seem silly to talk about the color options, but Harley is kind of known to change their colors pretty frequently. They try a lot of different color combinations and change them year to year. Different models come with different colors. And if you got to this point in the video and you're considering buying the Sportster S, I figured you might want to know what colors you can get it in. So let's take a look on Big Moose's website and see what we can get. So we got the classic stonewashed white pearl. We can also get it in this midnight crimson. One thing that I like about the color options on this new Sportster S is the Harley Davidson logo here on the tank stays the same color and it matches all these accents on the engine. I think that's a pretty cool touch that they did. And finally, my personal favorite, vivid black. I know it's kind of popular and maybe you want to go with something else because there's so many black bikes out there, but I can't help it. I love black. I'm always going to love black bike, so that's the color I would pick. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 10 things that I think you need to know about the new Sportster S from Harley. This isn't everything there is to know about this bike. Like I said, it is a new bike, tons of new features, bunch of things that Harley hasn't really done in the past that they brought out on this bike, which I think is really cool. So there's tons more to learn about it. These are just the 10 things that I thought I would want to know if I was looking at buying this bike, but there's tons more to learn. And the best way to learn everything that you want to know about this bike is to call my friends down at Big Moose Harley Davidson, or if you have a chance, stop by, see everything they have to offer. Like I said, I know they did get one of these in this week. Go down, take a look at the bike, take it for a test ride, and ask them all the questions you have. They're gonna know a lot more about it than me. So do the same thing that I do and make the guys down at Big Moose Harley Davidson your source for everything Harley Davidson. Guys, thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, and if you're into all things motorcycle like I am, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be trying my best to put out a video every week, and it's going to be all things motorcycle all the time. So if that's something that interests you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. That doesn't hurt either. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next video.